Mr. John Hodge, how are you this morning, sir?
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Yeah, the energy here today is just beautiful. It's just feels actually kind of overwhelming at sometimes.
Define that. What is overwhelming energy?
Overwhelming is like when you're not really centered. This higher energy, when you're walking into it, it's kind of like you have to rebalance yourself and move into that frequency to feel right. That's the way it feels to me, which is really good. I mean, it's a really good thing. It's not a bad thing.
How do you, like, when you're thinking about energy on a mental level, how does it process? Do you actually have to filter through your mind, or is this a felt sense? Does it come up like through your gut?
For me, it's a sensing and a feeling. I feel it in my heart first. My heart expands. I feel some heart expansion when I go into a higher vibration. And there is a little bit of a mind thing. Oh, I'm centering now. And it's an intention. In me, it's an intention. You know, it's something that I know to go to whenever it happens.
So, would you like to speak a little bit about what being centered energetically feels like to you?
In the center, being centered feels no thought, pleasant, and I can feel that energy in a balanced way across my body. So for me, it really is a feeling. I mean, it's a feeling all the way through me. When I'm out of balance, you know, it's like I can immediately feel there's something. I feel that out of balance. It's just the energy's not in the right spot. So I think it comes from being monitoring. You know, I monitor myself very closely, and I'm always sensing and feeling.
Right. And you're a musician, so you know when your instruments that you're playing are out of tune.
The frequencies and the feeling of that. You know, if I played something out of tune, it's like, you know, I can feel that instantly. But that's pretty much how that is. I mean, it's a coherence.
The word gets used so much, coherence. But how do you define coherence?
Coherence is when I'm feeling that feeling of balance. I know that I'm in alignment with the energies around me. Like right now, I feel very coherent, very in touch. My heart chakra is expanded. It just feels, you know, I feel like I'm in the moment. It's like nobody, no place, no thing, but I'm here in the physical. So, you know.
It makes a lot of sense to me, but to somebody that might not understand what that means, because you said earlier, no thought, right? And I think what you're defining is no predefined thought, because the thoughts just flow. It's like a completed electrical circuit that's how I feel when I'm in alignment, right? When I'm off alignment, I'm in my mind, and I've got chit chat, and you know the barking dogs are going off.
Right.
You know, insecure voice here, or you know, distraction here, or what did I not do, or lack, or you know what I mean? The contrast can be very real.
Yeah. Over the years, I learned how to move myself into this present state by doing energy work and focusing on breathing and how that feels in my body when I'm doing this. I'm taking my attention off of the past thoughts or the future thoughts, you know, making something in my mind just for mind activity, you know, ego activity. Instead of that, I've been determined and focused on that that the breathing and the feeling and the sensing, that I took my mind and moved it away from the past and the future. And whenever the past and the future comes up for me, I instantly recognize it
Instantly.
for what it is, because that's from becoming a watcher. I mean, I watch the feelings, I sense the feelings, and I watch what's the thoughts in my mind. Is it me? And that may sound odd for some folks. Is this my thought coming into my head? But when I really started, just sit. Say I sit and I just breathe, and I just let that energy come in, and I feel that, and I get myself into that no mind activity, and I just sit and watch in that presence. If I'm sitting and watching in that presence, and a thought comes in, and I'm watching that thought, where'd that thought come from?
That's the question, right?
Right.
Where did that thought come from?
Yeah. Is it my thought, or is it someone else's thought? Some thoughts that come in, I recognize them as somebody else's thoughts coming in.
Somebody else, like here.
Another
human.
Could be. Another human.
Right.
If people would be awake and aware like that all the time, you'll start noticing these things. But in doing this monitoring and doing this sensing and feeling, doing these breathing techniques, and they don't have to be complicated. I mean, it's just watching my breath going into my heart and out. I do an exercise where I see air. I'm breathing into my heart, and then I breathe out of my heart. When I breathe in, you breathe in, and you feel the energy coming into your heart. You exhale, and you're sending energy out. And then what we're doing is we're putting our attention on that and keeping it there. If my mind has its attention on something else, it takes its attention away from the past and the future and puts you in the present moment. So if I do that over and over, what's happening is you're bringing yourself into a deeper and deeper state of presence.
Right. And the heart is something that is so real for me, absolutely, but I think for every single person, right?
Yeah.
Because without it, we don't get to have this 3D experience.
Right. One of the big epiphanies for me a few years back is when my heart actually started finally just opening all the way, and I felt it. And this happened when I was doing doing energy work. I was teaching Tai Chi classes, and working on my energy every day. I'd go in and teach, 2 or 3 classes, and I'm doing these energy exercises over and over and over. And then my heart, what I would notice is I would go along in the class and be about halfway or 2/3 of the way through the class, and my heart would just go, poof.
You'd feel it.
Yeah, it would open up. Because one of the techniques I learned before that even happened was to focus my energy on my heart as I'm doing these energy exercises. So if I put my attention on an area in my body through my intent and put my attention there, that energy flows to that spot in your body.
Yes.
So what I was doing it without even realizing it at that time is I was putting my attention there, and I was breathing there and going through these Tai Chi moves and Qigong and different exercises, and I was building that heart energy. And finally it went like that. My heart just...
You felt it in your body?
Yeah, I felt it. My heart opened up.
Wow.
And I could feel, it was like my chest was on fire. It was just the energies. And nowadays, that's what happens when I open up my chest. It's like my chest is on fire. It literally feels that way. It's like heat.
Wow. What's the frequency, or what's the signature of that heat? Does it feel like a flame? Does it feel like a spark? Does it feel like love? Does it feel like... How would you describe that energy?
For me, it is a feeling of love. It's the power of unconditional love and connection with, with you, with others, with Source, and that energy flowing through you. When you use your energy in service to others, and you use it in a loving way, which when you're doing these energy exercises, we're all tied together, heart-wise, in these groups. And through the service work and everything, that's what creates this energy. And on fire is kind of like, what's that stuff you put on your body when, like, an athlete hurts himself?
Icy hot.
Icy hot. It's like somebody rubbed icy hot all the way across my chest.
Shout out to Shaq on that one.
Yeah, it's just, and that's the way that's the way I feel right now. It's like somebody took icy hot and smeared it across my chest.
No way. You physically feel it.
Yes, I physically feel it.
Have you ever taken an infrared heat gun or something and actually measured to see if there's a temperature change or if it's an internal felt sense?
I interpret it as an internal felt sense, that it's a result of this energy collection. Some of the first indications I had of this was my feeling stuffy. Like when my heart opened, it would feel like a pressure up here. And then as I progressed and built more energy and worked on it, that's where it's like I'm,
Interesting. So it's almost like maybe the rib cage was a wall. As the energy was expanding, it's like, whoa, here's something new happening inside here. My body's not used to. Here's a physical representation of a wall. And so then as you become more familiar and in tune, then you're allowing the energy to flow right through you and expand your energy footprint, right? And interact with everything, everyone that you're around.
Yeah, well, back then, I was just learning to focus energy. And I was beginning to focus energy not only in myself, but I started focusing energy on students in the class. And that was another big thing for me, because when I was doing that, my energy just went bam. It just shot way up when I started. I'm giving my love directly to this person in this class, and I'm focusing on doing that repeatedly over and over.
Yes.
And as you do that, it builds that source energy connection, because that's all I'm doing. I'm just flowing source. I'm channeling this source energy through myself into everyone else. And in the beginning, I was able to pick one person and do that for a little while, and then I had to stop.
Right. How would it feel inside when you were doing it? Like, why would you have to stop?
When my vibration would get so high, I would almost pass out. My body couldn't withstand the energy that's flowing through it, and I had to back off and settle down.
Okay.
So I would get to that level and back off.
How would you be getting to that level? Is that you as an instructor sharing and teaching and then focusing that energy on a specific student, and so you're just giving so much energetically?
I'm running so much energy through my body. Your body is attuned to a certain frequency at any one time. And the way we increase our frequency and we grow is we have to expand that a little bit at a time. We can't just go from one frequency all the way to this higher frequency all of a sudden.
We're in analog radio. We've got the Marantz, you got the dial.
We got to adjust the frequency up. So over all this time, I'm working that all the time. I'm always working on expanding my frequency, my energy limitations. I'm pushing that boundary all the time. So I went from one student to several students to an entire class at one simultaneously at one time.
How long did it take you, as you first felt that internal energetic state and you felt the wall, to then being able to move past the wall, to then feel that you could give your gift of that energy to a specific person, and then right to multiple people, and then to the whole room at that point. And I'm sure now we can just keep taking that further and further and further.
I can do big area now.
But could you walk us through, like, how long are we talking about? How much focus, how much energy? Because, people talk about the 10,000 hour, for example, of being able to master something. It's like just this, there's a zero and a comma, and then a couple more zeros that just signifies that you poured a lot of focus and energy into it.
I would say it was a process of a few years from moving, probably the last 10 years of moving from working on one all the way to many. Now. It was a process of, like I said, you have to expand yourself. You expand and integrate.
Yes.
Let me put it that way. So I would push my boundary as far as I could, and then I would be, it was like I'm crushed for a day or so.
Wow.
And then I would integrate, and then I would go back at it again. And just continue that process. And I've been doing that. That's what I do, because I know it works.
By that's what you do because that's what it works, are you meaning that you
I'm
just go all in on your focus days?
At first, I wasn't all in. Okay, let's talk about this, because this is really, really important, critical in what we're discussing. Intention and emotional drive is so important, because the universe sees that intent, the consciousness. When we talk about consciousness, what I'm doing is I'm moving conscious energy from one place to another through intent. And when I drive that emotion behind that focus and that intent, it pushes way more energy. So when I'm doing this, I'm putting all of my will, at the peak. When I'm really driving energy, I'm fully focused and pushing with all my will and intent.
I recently started calling you Yoda, and this is seeming more and more like it's accurate, right? Jon, Yoda hybrid. Yoda poured everything in, and it's even exemplified in the latest series where there's Grogu, the baby Yoda, and he has this, he pours his energy in, and then he's just exhausted, like he's napping, in the middle of all this conflict and crazy stuff. He literally used all of his soul, all of his energy, all of his might.
Your body, your vibration, your body has to adjust to the increased frequency.
Right.
And it's a progress. Ascension is that. You're expanding that frequency. And in order to do that, you have to let go of things. You have to let go of lower frequencies to move to higher frequencies. That's a part of the process. So
when you say frequency, I have my definitions, but how would you define it for whoever's listening?
Frequency is, the way I relate everything is levels of consciousness. And it's like you were saying before, it's like a frequency dial on a radio. Shifting to a higher frequency is turning up the amount of information and energy that's flowing through your body. That's really what vibration is, because there's so many different terms in this. But when somebody talks about density, I'm moving to a higher density. Really what they're saying is I'm moving to a higher frequency that has more information in it.
Right, bandwidth is increasing.
The bandwidth increases. So as we move up in higher frequency, our bandwidth is expanding, becoming much greater, and at the same time your perceptions are changing.
Speak to that.
a part of what we're doing is in this work, as we're expanding our vibration and our frequency, we're actually turning on dormant DNA that's in the body right now.
Okay.
And as you turn on image this as you have a DNA structure that runs from what we call 3D material world right now, and it actually goes up. It keeps going past what, to my knowledge, it keeps going, and there's actually higher density information that can be turned on and accessed by you increasing your frequency.
When you say that the DNA keeps going, my understanding of DNA is there's the 4 keys, essentially, the 4 letters, and then there's about 3.2 billion lines.
Right.
But is that just for humans? Is that for everything? Is that just what we're able to physically see?
That's just what that's the physical part. That's the part the scientists are going in right now, and they're seeing that. But there's actually a higher frequency part that's there and exists with that.
Okay.
That ties you to all.
Mm-hmm.
So as you increase your frequency, you're changing your radio dial. You're turning your dial up into that higher frequency, and what that does is that accesses that area of the DNA.
Metaphor here that just came to me is, I was thinking about the old school, like, the Marantz,
Yeah.
Analog radio, and you've got your FM and you've got your AM. AM amplitude modulation, it's much more monotone. There's not nearly as much, but
Right.
yet it's slower, longer waves that travel so much further with less static. It's easier to tune into that. It's a lower density frequency, like something like anger. I can attach to that really easily because I've experienced anger, right? I can talk about joy. Well, I can attach to joy very easily. They're concrete and real in my world, kind of that slower vibration. And so FM, being higher frequency, it has a lot more bandwidth, a lot more of the high pitch, a lot more of the low, right? You can have music on there that sounds much more robust, and yet the dial only goes a certain distance. You've got your 88 or whatever, 88.3 on the FM dial,
yeah.
and then it goes up to like 107 or
107 or something like that. Yeah.
right. But yet that's kind of the way you're describing DNA is it's almost as if that would be the chunk that exists when the spectrums all just keep continuing. Right?
Yes.
And there's no limit.
It goes way past 107.
Right.
That's the thing that, wouldn't you agree that we've all been programmed to think that this couch is this material world we're in, is the thing. It's only real if we can see it, touch it, smell it, hear it. But what I'm telling you is if you
Taste it, feel it.
Yeah, and feel it. Taste it, feel it. So what I'm saying is you can do those same things. You can actually realize and feel and understand and know things that are in these higher frequencies when you keep moving your frequency up into higher frequencies.
We just listed off 6 senses when we added feeling, and then that sounds like the 7th sense, if we're to take it in a logical or linear way, is a knowingness.
It's a knowingness, but it's an energy, and everything is energy. You're an energy at a certain frequency, but when you raise your frequency, your vibration, your frequency, you can tap into higher and higher levels of frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And within those higher levels of frequency is different information in a different way, but it's still information and it's still available to you. You'll start seeing new colors that you haven't seen before. You'll start hearing things you haven't heard before. You'll start feeling things you haven't felt before. You'll start encountering things that are not of this, what you would call this 3D reality. You start having experiences that move beyond that. And people have a really hard time with that because of what I said. Most people they're really tuned into this physical experience,
Right.
and the way they've had it for so long.
Right.
And now what's happening is the vibration of the planet's moving up, and this stuff is coming out, and people are having to deal with it. So
it feels kind of like Newtonian physics, right? Was able to really help us to understand the physical, three-dimensional world and existence, and quantum physics is really being a bridge to understand what's beyond that into more energetic or spiritual kind of planes or fields.
From my understanding, what I've learned, that there is an actual physics to all of this, throughout all of the dimensions, and it's dealing with energy. It's dealing with electromagnetics. Electromagnetics is the fundamental energy of the reality of the system. So there's actual mathematics and physics to everything that I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That are being discovered now and are starting to talk about.
Mm-hmm. And you were an electrical engineer, right? That's your background?
Mm-hmm.
How has that played in or influenced your style of thinking or way that you've evolved as a person and grown?
I think that was in my life because it was a key ingredient of me understanding the physics. Understanding the physics of reality beyond what you're just seeing. Because if you talk about electromagnetics or electricity, you're talking about something that your eye it's not quantifiable to the eye, but it's something that we can monitor. We can put a meter on it.
Different instruments have different sensitivities.
We can turn a light bulb on with it. But what I've done in my experience is take these energies that are higher frequency, and by me focusing these energies on other people, I've healed them, I've healed myself, I've changed my world. And for a lot of folks, that's not quantifiable to them. But if they raise their frequency, it'll be very quantifiable.
Right.
Because their perceptions will expand.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. As you raise your frequency, your perceptions, you gain more.
Mm-hmm.
You see more. You hear more. Your interaction with the universe changes.
Right. The amount of information that you're able to understand the bandwidth is much greater. Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to ask something because you just used very specific language, and I want to understand if that's what you meant or not. You said, I have healed people. Do you believe that you have healed people?
What I'm saying is I channeled the energy is really what I meant.
Yeah.
I don't heal anybody.
Okay. Amen.
Yeah, let's be specific about that.
Make sure that one was crystal clear. Being a conduit of
I'm a conduit,
total, true,
you're a conduit.
Authentic source energy.
Right. We're being conduits for source energy.
Right.
So, the purer you are, and I talk a lot about purity.
Yes.
Because when I talk about purity, I'm talking about having the pipe clean.
Right.
And the cleaner your pipe is, the more source energy you can move through you.
Yes.
So we can channel vital life force through ourselves to another individual, and that person can have an instantaneous healing through that vital force that we sent through to them. What happens is, if they don't change their habits or change the thing that brought them to that in the first place, it comes back.
Create a new norm with that energy, with that authentic heart connection. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, so that's all another part of learning all this. But raising your frequency is the key. And a lot of people hear this, how do I raise my frequency? Well, you let go of the lower frequencies, fear, doubt, anger, suffering.